All right, what's up, you guys? Happy Tuesday. Happy to see you all. Feel like I haven't seen you in so long. Thank you for the patience on Thursday. Wow, this whole weekend and this conference was like awesome. Lots happening, lots of people came. Um, we kicked off since Thursday with like some extra workshops and stuff, so it was really good. Met a lot of exciting people. This whole funding game is like super on our mind right now with like people here that are on this like business entrepreneur side of the scope of creating communities and like looking for projects in the space that are seeking investment. And so it was a good weekend of chatting with a lot of people to get you guys some like real life info of like what's happening in our world right now. Sonia is actually going to a workshop right now for one of the strategies of funding, which is applying to grants.
Hello.
So she's not going to be on the call with us. It's just going to be me and you guys.
I'm going to be tuning in from the room next to it. So actually the session is online. So I'm going to be tuning in to both situations. It's really just a pitch session for all of the projects that are taking part in the GitCon grant. And so it's a really cool funding opportunity that we're going to share with you, applying for that and rallying your community together to donate a little bit of money, and then it has a chance to multiply. We applied to a GitCon grant a couple of months ago for the trash platform. We received a little bit of funds, I think around $600, which is a good start. And so there's a lot of potential in this funding opportunities. I also know Kelsey, I connected you with Via Price. It's another crowdfunding platform that helps different projects. I saw you set up the profile. I'm excited to know how that went for you. I don't hear anything that's happening.
Yeah, Noah was great. Noah was absolutely great. Like, he responded right away and helped me onboard my project immediately onto their platform. Walked me through the process, and like, he donated right away. It was awesome.
Nice.
Okay, cool. And it's just crypto, right? People donate in crypto.
Yeah, just Ethereum.
Okay, cool. Interesting, cool. Okay, yeah, man, like these days with like the whole crypto move and people having just funds in crypto, it makes it a lot easier to gather money. It's so much easier to share money and transfer money to places with like different tokens and right, the fund that we were the grant that we were able to gather some money from was a series of people, I think like 15 or 20 people donating like $1 to $2 to $3. And from that, the way they do the calculations, for every person additional that votes, essentially, you get an exponential like increment in the amount of money. So it was pretty cool. It's cool to see these kinds of technologies. They call that quadratic funding, where again, based on the number of people that donate instead of just the amount, you get some refund back on that. Yeah, Jem, what's your experience? How did it go when you were like raising money? I know you've like worked on a startup, and it's pretty similar working on a startup to working on a land project. What was that experience like for you?
Yeah, it was like 6 years ago we started our startup, but we had the advantage because we were six co-founders. So we have founded ourselves in the beginning. So we didn't go to the angel investors. But when I was leaving, actually, this was the reason that I left my startup, because we didn't go to crowdfunding like after even 4 years. But then when I just leave after 1 year, we didn't have these options in the blockchain part. So we follow they follow the classic paths, let's say. and it was there's a company in Turkey that you can also invest like 10 liras, 20 liras or something like that, so you can just be a shareholder in a like small prices. And I know that it went really, really well. So yeah, this is kind of my experience.
Okay, nice. Yeah, thank you for sharing, man. Okay, Viv, these projects that you've been on at so far, like how have you been able to have conversations with them about like how they're getting funding, how they've like received money? I imagine a lot of them have been like self-investment, buying their own land and kicking off, but like anything you've heard in that like train of
Um,
thought?
so none of the people that I've spoken to had any did any like investment that came from other people other than themselves.
Right.
So they were just supporting themselves with their day jobs. One of them, they got the property kind of from friends, so they paid a little bit, but not too much.
Okay.
And the first one that I was at, they sometimes struggle with the funding. So they're like, okay, if they want to invest more, they have to work more. So there's
Right.
none of this like money coming in from somewhere. The project that I'm in right now, I'm I'll talk to him again, but as I said, like he got the land from his dad because his dad is an investor, and
Okay.
he's selling some parts of it, like little lots and stuff. So he has like some investment options. But other than the volunteering, I don't think he has like major costs with the volunteers coming, because we actually pay a little contribution for food.
Right.
So, and he does that like full time. So I think there must be some other money coming in somehow,
Okay.
which, yeah.
Cool. Cool. Yeah. So just from a couple of these like examples, right? We've already heard the basics of what funding is, right? Self-funding, reaching out to investors and gathering money in different ways as either loans or promises to pay back with interest, which is pretty much a loan. Also, examples of selling pieces of the land, right? Subdividing and selling small pieces to gain some money, so you can build certain things on your property and make it more appealing. Okay, hey Michael, what's up? Happy to see you. I missed you guys last week. I was sharing about the conference here. It was like a Startup Society and Crypto Cities conference. There was like pretty big names of people here, like this guy that wrote the book, The Network State. His name is Balaji. He was here over the weekend sharing his thoughts and huge wealth of experience in this movement of people looking at not just cities as a product that you can build as an entrepreneur, but also entire states, like countries, at some point. Once this picks up enough traction, which is, I feel, a pretty like controversial topic, like probably from the lens of like mainstream governments, where they're like, holy shit, people are now branching off and starting their own countries, pretty much. I can see a point where like the CIA will be tuning into the calls, or like, what are these people doing, starting their own places and doing their own things like this, which is quite interesting, kind of a interesting movement to be a part of. And different people do it for their different reasons. Some for like sovereignty and like a different form of government, right? One of my big drives is literally just to have food and water from places that I can count on and not be dependent on like an external system. So yeah, the conference was great over the weekend. Met a lot of funding people. So we're starting the conversation this week about funding and marketing to get that funding. That's what today's call is going to be about. Yeah, what's your any perspectives on funding and this whole journey, Mike, for you?
Yeah, how do you do that?
Yeah, right. We're definitely going to dive into it. We're going to dive into a bunch of options, right?
I'm
We
just
were just Go ahead.
We just got a loan.
Yeah, right. Okay, loans, right. This is a basic
Yeah.
one, right? This is a one way that you can count on. You go to the bank, you essentially put your credit up, and you take a loan out for a potential future return and some payments with interest. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. Here we go. No, this one. Okay, you guys. Yeah. So happy we're all here. Let's see. Is it sharing? Yes.
I would add that probably the trickiest thing, which we've been working on through this process together, is kind of getting people to buy into your project and join you and bring themselves and their energy and their money to
Right.
join your team and start developing with you.
Right. And so these are the two phases, the two topics that we're going to cover today, right? Topic one is, well, how much money do we need? So I'm just skipping up. We'll go through the recap in a second. So today, like at its simplest form, it's A, how much money do we need? Two, where can we get access to this money? We just talked about a few of these things: bank loans, investments, selling off land, et cetera, et cetera. And then the next part is essentially how do we convey the value of what we're doing? How do we share our project to others? How do we share it clearly to others? Where can we share this information and requests for people's involvement and money? And then the age-old reminder, right? Money is a numbers game, literally. It's just numbers on a piece of paper or on a computer. The more that you put it out there, the better your presentation is of what you're doing, a clear request, right? The whole universal model of like, once you know up here what you want, you get it down here. Or once you're grateful for the things that you have and you can envision the next steps, you get it out here, right? Think blue car, see blue car. The more you ask people and bring it in that next level of energetics of like, think about it, talk about it, plan about it, and then take action in that direction, the sooner you receive and start making progress in that direction. So that's going to be the topics today, right? Essentially, these two are funding, and then these three are essentially marketing, which is like the sister and sibling pair of this journey. Okay, so let's recap from last week, which was last Tuesday, 1 week ago, where we discussed about acquiring the best land for your needs, right? We went in this order because once you understand both your project at a high level from our first calls, what our project needs to be, how we feel comfortable, who we feel comfortable, and who we really need to attract to this project. Now we know what we want to build, we know who we want involved, and we have now an understanding based on that and the business models that we're thinking we want to run at our community. We get a better image of what kind of land we need for our project, right? If we want to have a skiing resort community, we know we need something in the mountains where it's snowy. If we want a community that is based on like beach and tourism, we want something near an ocean and near a beach where we have access potentially to the beach, right? And so acquiring the best land for our needs, identifying that land, and that journey is the first step in understanding our funding journey, right? Here we talked about the density. Last week, we talked about the population density and the climate, the size of the land. This is a big one. Right, today we're going to start off with the visualization exercise. So everyone start imagining what that dream community for you is, where it is, what it is. We're going to do a dream board exercise in a second. We discussed tips for assessing the land to make sure it's the right piece of land, the legal part that we have to focus on, which is like zoning and land ownership models. And we did some case studies. Okay, so with that in mind, we review again what we're going to go over today, which is how much money do we need to actually accomplish this project? We're going to go through a few exercises where we like nitty gritty. We're going to do some calculations. So everyone have your calculator out on your phone. It's going to be a few simple ones, as simplified as I can make it. But this already puts you light years ahead of the average person who has never done a calculation to estimate how much it'll cost to build a place. And we'll do it pretty quickly and pretty easily. I went through some examples last night, and we'll get through it quickly. So we'll discuss how much money we need, places where we can get that money, just so you get familiar. We've put a pretty comprehensive list in the guide. We'll go through the alchemy guide and discuss a little bit about each one, so you can ask some questions or a little bit of clarity. So you guys, again, remember, have the understanding and confidence that you are aware of these topics. In no way are you expected to be an expert or know how to do this right off the bat. You will have exposure to what these topics are and where you can find more resources about them. So you can share this with your potential clients and with your communities themselves. So after we understand how much money we need, where we're going to get it, we discuss how we can share what we're doing clearly, right? Michael, you hit it on the head. The challenge is convincing others to upend their life, wherever that life is, and have enough confidence and belief that this thing that you're doing is worth not only their time, not only their effort and their moving, but also their money, to bring money to the table and contribute in that financial way as well, right? So sharing what we do clearly is such a simple step that gets overlooked in startups, right? Where people have this whole complex idea and they can understand it themselves, but when you ask them to describe it to like your grandma, they can't. And your grandma won't understand what they're doing. Or your 10-year-old nephew. That's one I always like to think about. Like, can my 10-year-old nephew understand when I describe to him what my business is? Or in this world, for us, what our community is, what makes it unique, what makes it special for people to want to come. As humans, right, we avoid risk, and the unknown is always risk, because there could be a lion hiding in the bushes, and there could be a pitfall anywhere when it feels not clear. So the more clearly we describe what we're doing, the best. We have a few examples in here that we'll share with you. Once we have that information clear, we discuss where we can share this information. And this enters the marketing world, right? Creating the content and then spreading the content. And then the reminder of directly asking, right? Everything is a numbers game, especially with money. The more places you put your flyer around the city, the more eyeballs are going to see it, and the more likelihood someone is going to reach out to you with interest. Okay, you guys. So everyone's here. Great. Awesome. Okay, I'm recording. Yes, we're recording. Yeah, Sonia is actually taking a call, getting some support for GitHub, Getcoin, which is a funding vehicle that we actually explored a few months ago, and we're able to raise like $600 for another round of development for the Tribes platform. It's one of the models we'll discuss in a little bit on the rest of the call. Okay, so we start with our visualization exercise, you guys. This is where a lot of people come in and hit a brick wall, right? When you were asked, okay, this is your dream board price, right? How much is your community going to cost? Let's ideate, right? When you start like this with this big, broad question, it's not an easy topic to figure out. It's not an easy number to come down to unless you break it down into its individual components. So before you think about individual components, I would just like all of you to throw a number on this board. I would like each of you, your names are all here. I would like each of you to throw a number without trying to calculate land and development and all of this and staff. Throw a number on here to imagine what your dream community will cost to build and to acquire land and the whole thing. Throw a number in here, and then we're going to actually do some calculations in the next step, and we're going to see how close this was of like thoughts for numbers. All right, everyone is different, so we can take some time with each one of us to go through like more specifics. I make myself available during the call and after the call to go through more specific examples with each of you. So jump in there and add like what your price is for your community. Okay, we're over here on the section. Let me see. I'm not seeing anyone's arrows. Okay, I see your arrow, Kelsey. I see you, Michael.
Maybe a connection issue. I can't seem to get a typing cursor.
Oh, you guys aren't being able to type on it?
My buttons on the top are gone. They're just like
Oh, you have view only.
flashing.
I see Kelsey. I see you clicking something. Can you type, Kelsey? Okay, I see Kelsey typing. Huh, that's odd. Mike, maybe close out and come back in with the link. That's odd. Yeah, I'm in on the link. I was able to type. I'm seeing Kelsey. She just typed one number. Let's see. Jem, are you able to type in here? Or Vivi, are you able to type in here? Yeah, Vivi's in there typing. Okay, okay, cool. Yeah, I see everyone typing. Mike, is yours fixed with logging out and logging back in?
I think I'm in now.
Okay, cool. Okay, Jem, is your working? I'm looking at you. I see you on the screen. Yeah. Okay, cool. Okay, sweet. All right, so we've all thrown down some numbers on this, right? I'm looking through the numbers. We have Michael at 2 million, Vivi at 500,000, Jem at 100,000, Kelsey 2.5 million, and I put 10 million. So these are numbers that we've thrown out based on estimates we have in our mind, right? How did we get these estimates? This is what we're going to explore this on this call. And now I would love to hear what ideas you guys have. Drop 3 ideas to the right of where you would gather this money, like where you imagine yourself collecting this money from. Okay, cool. I'm reading through here. Michael put some members operating a business and a loan. Yeah. Great, Viv. A group of potential friends coming in together. Yeah. Angel investor. Cool. And crowdfunding. Yep. Another angel investor from Jam, selling shares. Yes. Events and organizations. Cool. And then Kelsey, venture capital. Right. Yeah. This is a big one, right? Go to the big boys for that money. And donations. Sweet. Okay, yeah, I put also pre-sale rentals. I've seen this work pretty well, where people sell ahead of time. Essentially, it's almost like a crowdfund, like a Kickstarter, where like you invest money in this idea before it exists, and then they gather the money, and with that money, they're able to do the thing they wanted to do. I put real estate sales and equity investment, which is investors coming in and owning a piece of the project. Okay, cool. So these are all great forms of investment sources. I want to share with you guys the link at the top where it says investment sources. You can click on there and go over to the Alchemy guide. You can check that out and where it took us. In here, we've essentially put an outline of all of the forms of investment that we've been seeing, both from other guides and personal experiences. Both in the regenerative neighborhood space, but also spreading into general like startup space, ways people are gathering money for different kinds of businesses. At the end of the day, the way you pitch your community, you can make yourself available for different kinds of investments. Everything from like a residential real estate investment to something like a business incubator, right? This is one of the models that they have here at this project, where because there is a freedom and a different process for testing biomedical products, the community here is looking to play the investment role in other companies. So as those companies go to market and start selling product, the community will generate revenue as an incubator style investment model. So with that presence, you can actually apply to different kinds of loans, different kinds of government grants and subsidies, and different ideas like this. So I just share this with you so you guys get familiar again with the Alchemy Guide, right? This is your major tool of basic information that can point you in the right direction to get familiar, refreshed with the topics as you begin to talk to potential clients, right? People that ask, oh, well, what are some ideas you have for me to raise funds? You can refer to this, right? Selected preferred strategies to raise capital and read through them. Read through them with the vision holder. Sometimes they might even know someone that has an impact investment fund or that owns a foundation that could be in support or any of these things. Oh, I saw a link to green bonds recently and someone recommended me this website. Sometimes just touching on all the topics is one of the really, really important things you can do with the vision holder, right? They really seek guidance and partnership in the thought process. This is half of the battle with this journey. So I share that with you guys, and underneath we share some examples of how some communities will be doing a case study a little bit later in the call. What are the methods they used, how much money they raised, and what their goals kind of were from the beginning. So we'll go through that soon. Again, I want you guys to be familiar with the Alchemy Guide, right? In the Alchemy Guide, we have this wealth of knowledge where we, again, just like this call, we're going to be referring more to the Alchemy Guide in a few minutes. Where we start with the concept of funding, how the funding journey happens, figuring out the cost, figuring out the channels, designing the incentives for the people to get involved, and how the community itself can bring capital financially and in other ways to lead to bringing capital. We also have a pretty in-depth process where we describe the whole journey from start to finish. If you notice, some of these steps, essentially, all of these steps up here, are content from the first calls that we've had, figuring out the vision, assessing what we actually need, what does the land look like that we're going to need for all of this, talking to experts and talking to our teams. So all of this is the journey from the beginning, all bundled into just the funding thing. So you have it all in one place. Okay. Again, I want you guys to be familiar with this content. I invite you guys to go in there and look through it, at least like read through the topics, read through the points, anything that you have a question about, comment, right? Highlight, and you can drop a comment here and leave us a comment and leave a comment for others that will be coming through this guide so they can see other questions people have had. This is the beauty of a crowdsourced guide, and this guide will continue to improve over time. Okay, so the next step in the journey we're going to be on. So I'm coming back here. Okay, cool. So with this idea in mind of your community, right? Let's continue the visualization. This is how I love to work. We understand prices that we've estimated, right? And where we could potentially get this money. I would love for you guys to list 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 5, if you want, of the most important parts of your community that will make your community unique. Because in the next exercise, we're going to take one of each and we're going to calculate how much it costs to build that place, to build that thing for your community as a starting point. So take a couple seconds. Take a couple seconds, drop that in there. That's great. I see Andoni's on the board. I see you in there, Ando. Yeah, take a few seconds and list what are the most important parts of your community project, right? Like, again, if for me, I'm an entrepreneur and I'm definitely going to be creating an entrepreneurial community. So a co-work space is critical for that mission. A space where people can gather and work together and create plans and have their computers set up comfortably with white erase boards everywhere. That's one of the things I think about the most. Another super important part is residencies, homes, right? I'll need both single family homes for people that want a backyard and a home, and also mixed use buildings where multiple people live in one building, right? Small building of 4 or 5 apartments, or even a bit bigger buildings of like 10 to 20 apartments. These are all important things in my journey. So I'm going to add those from my column. My third most important thing is a veterinary space. I will definitely be creating an animal sanctuary space and having a place where the animals can receive care, and then have space to frolic outside is like super important for me. Okay, cool. I'd love to hear from each of you, like what you feel are some of the important spaces for your community, and like a little bit of why. This will help all of us visualize it, and we'll all be channeling that like visualization and energy of like the place that you want to build. Let's see, we can start from the top. Who's first? Michael. Michael, Vivi, Jem, in that order.
Hello. Okay. Imagine this. You're in the heart of the boreal forest, wildlands, coniferous and deciduous trees surround you. Your streamside, the trickling, babbling brook, water streaming into a wetland pool. You're in a natural rock-formed hot pool beside the stream, looking over the beautiful grassland and the wetland before you. The sauna's right beside you. You just came from the co-work clubhouse where you get your internet and your laundry done, and there's a big old kitchen and people love hanging out over there. Right beside you're beside this cliff, and at the top of that cliff, there's a mountaintop movement studio. There's going to be an event tonight. It's going to be a dance. You're going to party up there. And afterwards, you're going to walk into the forest to your private little cabin in the woods. Enjoy a restful night with the partner of your choosing.
Okay, that was great, Michael. That was great. And this whole time your ATV is warm and snug in its garage. That's great. Yeah, that's really good, man. Okay, beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. And so this begins our journey into understanding what are the things we will need to build, right? Okay, sweet. Let's go next. Vivo, how's your internet? Are you
I
good to
think my
share?
internet is fine this time. I
Okay,
think.
sweet.
Whew. All right. Michael really set the bar super high. All right. So envision a wide open sky, flat land, some hills, and in the center of it all, there's a big, sorry, it's a little bit loud right now.
It's good. It's good.
In the center, there's a big, beautiful greenhouse attached to a communal space, like a house. I love the word that Kelsey chose, which is the creation kitchen. A place where you can learn to ferment, cook beautiful meals with the foods that you have harvested from the greenhouse and the beautiful orchards. And after a full day of harvesting food and cooking delicious meals, you can relax in the sauna and the cold plunge going back and forth. And there's a body of water somewhere. And there's going to be, depending on what your role is in the community, you either get to stay in a cozy space for volunteers or in a cute tiny house, or like these glamping domes that are like open so that you can watch the sky at night.
Nice.
Or any time of the day, really.
Okay, nice.
That's it.
Okay, beautiful, beautiful. That's a good one. Do you have an idea of where?
Honestly, I don't. I'm also quite torn on like the climate thing. I want to go to Australia later this year to visit my friend, and I think there I'm gonna get a lot of inspiration also on like the climate that she's described there. Sounds super awesome. Also really unique because you can literally plant anything there, from tropical fruit like mango to stuff that usually grows in colder climate. So that sounds super intriguing, but I haven't been there yet. So I don't know. I'm like, I like it warm,
Right.
but I also sometimes like cozy rain. So I don't know.
Okay, cool. All right, Jem. What are the important parts of your community?
This community doesn't have any land, so this was quite a hard question for me to answer first. But yeah, just dream a Regen nomad community that travels in a sustainable way to the sustainable Regen projects in all around the world, always with a different community which can help to that project, and which can also how can I say, this community is a gathering of a talented people, so these people also share their talents to the young and to the young or child people, and this community is always traveling, always changing the place. And yeah, and maybe this, how can I say, some members of this community share their cultural heritage. For example, I'm sharing my Anatolian vibes to the West or Eastern people, and I receive some another cultural heritage. So yeah, this is kind of my first important parts in my community.
Okay, cool. So you're considering a nomadic community with places in different places. Okay, great. That'll be tough to figure out. We'll get through it more. Okay, next, Kelsey. What are some important like physical places of your community as you imagine it?
Really important physical space for me is a composting yard.
Okay, nice.
I love composting, and I want a space to make the good earth. For the food forest, for the orchards, for the community members outside of our community, as a way to like integrate the outside with our community. So as like an exchange process. Definitely a grand kitchen space for creation and community togetherness during mealtime and creating together and sharing. That's really vital. Also a regeneration station, like where you can start to plant seeds and grow trees and then like have those be taken out.
So just like a cycle where you can plant, have it take it out, keep planting the seeds.
Okay, nice. Nice, yeah, very nature.
And yeah,
Very
just a grand gathering space for co-working, for sharing the delicious, healthy food together, creating together. Yeah.
Okay, nice. Yeah, the shared space is key, right? You guys all inspired me a bit. Ando, I see you're here. Welcome, my brother. Happy to see you.
What's up? Thank you.
Ando's number was $2.1 million. Investment sources are loan. What's PE?
Private equity.
Private
So
equity.
private investors.
Right. Beautiful. And then pre-sales. Sweet. Okay. So what are some of like the important physical spaces of your community that the exercise we're going to continue later is to do a rough calculation of what it costs to build one of these spaces. For one of us, multiple of us, we'll see how time allows. We're at 11:40 already. So I'm going to start pushing faster. So we can do a rough estimate of calculations just to have an idea of what it really costs to build one of these places. So what are some important places for you in your community?
All right, so I'll start from the end backwards, from the more important. First of all, the access. There needs to be like the key point is where you go in, where you go out to the property in general and the inner roads within.
Right, roads.
Sometimes that's not like taken into account, but it's like, to me, it's fundamental that you really change the whole atmosphere the second you go through the door, you know?
Right.
So that's huge because a lot of the onboarding for the people that literally physically step into the space happens here. So it needs to be very experiential and iconic and like bringing people in, but at the same time, leaving privacy and a low footprint around. This is because I see spaces designed as hexagonal fractals with green belts in concentric circles. So this gives you privacy, having a low footprint with whatever, mostly residential, but also with the tourist and the commercial and even industrial or agro-industrial spaces, can all kind of live in one same place as long as there are healthy boundaries. And these boundaries, we call them green belts, because we allow nature and follow kind of the density and the different microclimates that we can establish and have all of them kind of in a very agrosyntropic to be all together, you know? Right. And having these little microclimates, because at the center of it, it's kind of like a human cell or like a living cell, where you have at the core, at the center, a place that is very open purpose, meaning that nature and the outside and the inside blend in. You don't really know when you are indoors or when you are outdoors. And you have what we call social intelligence core center, which allows you to have both activities that give you different types of experiences, that provoke inspiration and give you nurture, like food and comforts, like spa or things that really make people come together. And this is kind of like the climax or the culmination of one of the most important spaces overall for the community, which is having a farmhood, a neighborhood that is productively landscaped, that gives you a lot of the green and a lot of the color, but at the same time, it's productive, it's a farm, it's community operated, it's open for any neighbor or visitor to kind of step in and Garden of Eden, take the apple out of the tree. Well, don't buy that apple, maybe the pear. But it basically allows us to keep the spaces we need to impact productive, to sustain and generate capabilities for the overall project. So it's not just one little garden or one little part that's a farm, but it's kind of like distributed as landscaping. And this is kind of how we would approach it. It's a large land project, so it's over 30 hectares. in extension. Most of it is conservation, with at least a 30% that we keep completely virgin, meaning we don't go in it, we don't put roads on it, we just try to keep it in conservation with very extremely low impact. And we kind of developed closer to where the accesses are in, and we start making our way with further replicas of the fractals that you can imagine as this neighborhood blocks that we are able to kind of put together in clusters. So you can see it grow. Cool. Yeah.
Okay, sweet. So yeah, I'm excited to hear a trend in a lot of people's answers, right? Obviously, we all are looking to have food available to our place. We're all looking to have a core building where community things happen, a clubhouse, you can call it. We're looking for different spaces for people to live. And I see in here, gathering places. Okay, sweet. So understanding this, we've now kind of have an estimate in our mind of what is the kind of place we want to create. We've all thrown a number out as number in the air. What do we think? Now we're going to get a little more into the nitty gritty of this calculation. What does this actually look like? So I want to, again, because I want you guys to be very familiar with the Alchemy Guide, I'm clicking that link there. And this is bringing us to section 6, where there's a breakdown of the in-depth process, right? This is the one I was referencing a little bit earlier to you guys. The in-depth process of, am I sharing my screen? What am I sharing right now? Let's see.
Miro.
Okay, you guys are seeing the mirror. Okay, great. Okay, so yeah, when I click there, it takes me over here to the Alchemy Guide. In the Alchemy Guide, we have both our simplified process for understanding the basis of funding, right? Figuring out the money we need, where we're going to get it, how we're going to attract people, and how we can integrate the community into this. And underneath, we have the in-depth process. Again, these are tools for you guys to get familiar with and use to be informed at a base level. Again, no one's expected to be an expert at this. This is just so we feel confident that we know the topics and that we can share with our vision holder, the person that we are walking through this process, some good resources for them to do their own research and for us to start digging into that rabbit hole of each. On the Miro board, switching back to the Miro board, we go now into, I've broken down that in-depth process into a series of steps and cards. I put some examples of each one of these. We're not going to do this together right now. We're only going to go into this one together, which is the cost estimation, right? This is the most tangible exercise that we need to consider right now. I set this up for you guys so you can look in there and see different examples of each one of these steps. In my mind, I had, let me actually add that up here. I was thinking about a community for us, all of us on this call, a community of community creating consultants, right? How many of us are on the call right now? Let's see, it should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, including me. 7 and 8, including Sonia, right? So that's kind of what I calculated on. Our initial community was a community of community creating consultants, right? It's us, you guys. And so I just went through each one of these topics and I added a few of my thoughts, right? This only took me a few minutes to get through it, of potential things to consider in each of those steps. I'm going to invite you guys to go through that. If we have a little bit of time at the end of the call, we can go through it a little bit more. But if you realize, like I said at the beginning, these first 3 steps are things that we've done from our first 3 or 4 calls, right? These are topics like understanding the vision, what do we actually need for how many people, and what are the things that we're looking for in our land, and who are the experts that we need to help with this thought process. From there, we now identified the components of the land that are super important, right? This is kind of the exercise we started doing, from thinking about the land to the buildings to the roads, like you shared, Andoni. Yeah, it's such an overlooked thing that people don't consider the price of creating roads. Actually, here we're going to go through a little practical exercise of like, how much does it cost to create 100 meters of road, right? 100 meters is about a football field, a soccer field length. A 12-foot or 4 meter wide road for one car, and 100 meters, which is just one football field. And the price range you can have on that, from a gravel road to an asphalt road, right? And this is all in dollars. Again, it's kind of, I chose a middle ground price, like not the least expensive in a less developed country, and also not the most expensive. It's a little bit below American EU pricing. So we are going to go into depth on calculating. We're going to calculate the price for each of us. Will pick one of the most important building for us that we want to figure out, and we're going to do a rough calculation of what it costs to build that thing. Okay, you guys? And this will put us on track to understand that process. We'll go through the whole example. But if you go through the rest of this, as I'm sharing on the Miro board right now, you can see all the other things that are very important to figure out for the funding journey, right? What is the cost estimate of building all of those things? And then we also have contingency plans. Like, what do we have to consider as just in case money? Because that always happens, right? In Tulum, there's hurricanes. I've seen projects get totally shut down because they didn't save any money to fix their roof after the hurricane season. And then they couldn't rent the cabanas to bring people in and raise money. And they didn't have any money to fix the roof. So they were literally stuck between a hard place and a wet place, and it was not comfortable. So you really need to consider that. The phases, what are we going to build first, second, third, fourth, fifth, to make sure we are able to actually execute this project and not say like, I need $10 million right now, close to impossible, unless you have really, really powerful funding strategies. But doing it in phases where you go, okay, I need this money first to buy the land, and I need this money next to build the housing and the community things, is the most powerful strategy you can follow. We go through other things here, like what are sustainable systems that are important. We'll be doing that call next week on the sustainable system design, I believe, or maybe it's the week after, but it's coming up, that one. We discussed here also, how do we engage the community to get involved, right? Remember, we discussed that we've observed a huge power in creating your community of not necessarily buying the place first and building first, but creating a digital community of individuals around this idea. So how do we engage that group of individuals, right? If we said it's a numbers game, and if you can talk to 10 people, but if you can convince 5 other people, if in our case, 8 of us, to each talk to 8 people, right? That's 80 people we've now planted seeds with to see who will help with the funding journey. We discussed financing options in here, all the things you need to consider in this journey, the business models. We had a course on that already, location and regulations. So these are all important things to consider in the funding journey. Of course, in the funding journey, it's everything, top to bottom, which is what this course is about. I just shared in here so you have some examples and some thoughts about how these topics actually embody, right? Like risk assessment. What happens in a case of war? In case you're in a country that happens, political change, climate change. We have continuous monitoring practices, right? Your monthly report, your quarterly report, your yearly report. Getting professional guidance, right? Definitely getting some marketing help, some funding help if you can bring it. If you can attract someone to the community that does those things, even better, because now they have a vested interest in everything working out. How you can get funding from your community itself, and communication, right? Explain what we do clearly, which is what we'll do on the second half of the call. All right, so I'd like to do this exercise before we take our bio break, so we can each start in the journey of this one. To me, this is one of the most important things, is the cost estimation journey. So I'm just going to connect this to there. Okay, cost estimation, meaning let's do a little bit of math, you guys, right? I'd love everyone to grab their cell phone calculator, and we are going to do just a little bit of rough estimation on some stuff, right? We're going to have to estimate quite a bit of things, so this will in no way be exact, but it will give us an understanding of what things cost and why the biggest risk to most projects is underestimating the amount of money that you need to actually build something and get something off the ground. Right? Obviously, the first step is we need to buy the land. And this is like a completely location and situation dependent topic. So we can't even really estimate that. It's based on where you want to buy the land, right? I could buy a block, like a square for just one house on the beach somewhere, that'll cost the same as buying a whole forest in another place because it's a 3-hour drive from the nearest city or the nearest airport, right? Like in Tulum, the cost of land is significantly higher than in other parts of Mexico. Same with building standards and construction prices. So all of these calculations are location dependent, both for the land that you're buying and for the construction. We are going to use an average of two numbers, right? The two numbers I've selected here are based between the average US price that I have found at the most current reporting in square meters. Does anyone think in square feet here? I think we're all maybe meter humans. Maybe Kelsey, we think in square feet. Mike, square feet. Okay. Okay, there's a bit of a number flip that we'll do there. It's all doable. We're going to work in square meters. Again, well, there's calculations to turn it to square feet. That's super easy as well. But we're just going to do some rough estimations. I put square feet in here as well in some of the examples in the alchemy guide. Okay, so we have a base understanding of this, right? Side note, a square meter to square feet is a 10x difference, right? So a house that's 1,000 square feet, which is like about a 2-bedroom apartment, like a modest 2-bedroom apartment is about 1,000 square feet. In square meters, that's about 100 square meters, a little bit less, but you can take it at like a 10x difference. And so this is one way you can always figure out math in your head easier. Okay, so there's a lot of things to consider with development, right? With the build out price of something, right? We're going to assume the land price is our land price, right? Everyone has a different idea for the size of the land they want to buy. And this will come based on locations. I would love to leave homework for everyone after this class. Look for some potential land options. And I would love to hear land options that seem interesting to you and the price for those pieces of land for our next call. So I'll write that in our homework later. So you guys can go through a practical exercise of looking for land leads, like who's selling land and where and why, and what's the price of it. Right now, we're going to focus on building, right? So, okay, there's two things to understand. One is you can make a rough calculation of what it costs to build something by the estimate the developers give you of the cost per square meter or square foot, right? So this is like, if you're building a house that's 1,000 square feet or the equivalent about 100 square meters, they'll give you the price for building the estimate of one foot by 1 foot distance or 1 meter by 1 meter distance, right? Which is a meter is about 3 feet. They give you that estimate so you can figure that out at that rough calculation. So down here, I've put some examples of what that looks like. You can check this out over here. So the other thing you need to consider is the level of finish for your place, right? In a more luxurious, fancy place where you have like really nice tile on the floor and you've set up like trim on the edge of the floor and maybe even on the roof you have a second like lining. Your counter, the material that your counters are made out of is marble over just basic wood, for example, or just a concrete finish, which can also look nice when polished correctly. These are all things you need to consider in the price. I've given 2 examples here, 3 examples actually. So I've put the price for a middle level of finish, which is what you can expect, let's say, when you're building something out in America, right? This is like the average cost to build an apartment in the US. If you're building a small apartment, which is here 70 square meters, which is about 700 square feet, you can imagine this to be like a 1-bedroom apartment, a modest 1-bedroom apartment with a little living room and a small little kitchen area, all in kind of like a studio with a bedroom attached to it. The price for this, at this price, right, is about 115,000 US dollars. This price estimate includes everything. And I would like you guys to check out this link right here. Where is it? Did I not include it here? Here, let me add the link to where I got this, because it's a super important one for you guys to see. Here, find out how much it will cost. Copy this heading link. Okay. Okay, sweet. All right, so I invite you guys to click this link up here. Again, this is going to take us to our magical alchemy guide. Let's see. Okay, great. And in this alchemy guide, you can see where this is the most recent research I found from this developer that I follow, and he shares blogs and articles regularly about what the journey of building things is for him in real time. It keeps him really popular online. He shares like in real time buildings that he's working on, buildings that have been worked on, and what the cost of the thing was. So in here, you can see where these numbers are coming from, right? I nerd out on this topic of like seeing the little pieces that make up the big building in the back, because this I've realized time and time again is one of the biggest sources of challenge for individuals. Underestimating how much things will cost, putting some money aside for it, and then getting to a result that, as we can see here, is a low level of finish versus what they were expecting to have a middle or high level of finish. And like the numbers are exorbitantly different, like dramatically different, right? You can see here the price of a middle level finish for a small studio apartment is about $64,000. This is a small studio. So this is like you open your door and in one room in front of you, you have everything you need for your, like your bed is there, you have a little kitchenette, you have a couch. Like this is a very, like a modest studio, like small space, right? 40 square meters is about 400 square feet. So you imagine that's like a 20 foot by 20 foot size room. In metric, it's like a 5 by 4 meter room. 40, right? It's like a 10 by 4 is kind of weird to do that. It's like a 6 by 6 meter room, a little bit more or less around that area, 6 by 7 meter room. So it's a studio, right? We can all imagine a studio. And so the price for that studio is $64,000 to build, right? Including flooring, lighting, permits, all of the stuff, right? Again, in here, we've taken into account, if you look at the alchemy guide, I want to share this tab real quick. It's a quite intricate process, but your power as an agent will be to be able to give a rough estimate. Again, we'll make it very clear to the vision holders that this is only a rough estimate, but it's one step in the direction of saying, oh, my place is going to cost $5 million. We're now taking the next step where we're digging a little bit deeper to get the cost, the actual cost of things, right? Again, with this, we have an idea and then we go to an expert that will give us a more detailed breakdown. But here you can see all of the things that are included. If you guys are seeing my screen, this is the high level breakdown, which includes like buying the land, building the place, and all of the stuff. We're not focused on that. We are just focused here on the construction breakdown, which is starting Roman numeral number 2. And you can see all the stuff that's included, right? Everything from the building and permit fees to the impact fees to the water and sewage inspection, architecture design, and other, right? They leave an other column. And it also is really cool. It breaks it down by the percentage of the construction cost. so you can see where the money is going. And you're going to see really quickly how the money mostly goes to the finishes. Like, you can really change the level of your cost by deciding, okay, I'm going to put like marble on my counter, or I'm going to leave it just the base concrete, and I'm going to polish my concrete and make it look nice. Right. The other big expenses are the foundation for the house. That's like one of the bigger expenses. One of the basic expenses, the framing, which is like the structure of the house, the exterior finishes, which is everything from the roof to the walls and the plumbing and the electric, to the interior finishes. This is by far the biggest piece of the pie, right? This is like doing the insulation, the walls, what the lighting is going to be, the counters and the appliances and the flooring, all of this stuff. This guy even has a fireplace on this one. So this is like a nice middle finish to a house. And then the last steps. So I share this with you so you can see how in depth you can go and get familiar with this. If you enjoy this part, right, I want to introduce you guys to every piece of this. As you enter your journey as an agent, you're going to realize that you gravitate towards more some things and less other things, right? Some of us really enjoy the sustainable system journey and calculating how much energy we're going to use to figure out the solar panels. Others of us will want to totally outsource that and bring on a sustainable energy person. Some of us will like more the part about the human connection and how to create connection within the community. Others will just want to outsource that and bring on someone that hosts co-lives and knows how to do the whole nonviolent communication piece, and we just participate, right? This is one of these rabbit holes that you could go down and start getting better at figuring out the cost of construction and things like this. Okay, so I'm going back over here to our Miro board. How's everyone doing? Does anyone have any questions at the moment? How's everyone feeling about this? I know this is like a dense thing that can feel heavy. It's a journey into it, right? And again, this is our first view of it, right? We're going to be available to you guys as part of this agent program to ask questions, take one-on-one moments where we go through this kind of stuff and explore it a bit more, right? As you imagine your project and we help others with their projects. How's everyone feeling? Everyone's okay right now? Cool. If you have any questions, feel free. Yeah. You're on mute, Endo. You're still on mute.
For these type of things, I wanted to just share a comment, see if you guys have found anything in your practice that when you're doing a master plan, people are doing kind of like rough sketches, and sometimes they'll do like something more like on AutoCAD, like on the computer or something. And I have figured projects that the best approach is using what's called BIM, Building Information Modeling. That means that the whatever plan, master plan or a house plan that lives within it that you're doing, essentially is translated into a concept list of items that is budgeted by the program, by the app itself. So you kind of like master plan, hit enter, and it starts to give you, according to the some average prices and catalog prices, what is called a concept catalog, where you will see which amounts of what, like down to the very nail, down to the very like nuts and bolts going into the wood or whatever. Nice. And this is massive difference in the time, in the level of detail, in the how exact it is, right. To put a project together without you having to literally break your brain or have 7 architects, 6 engineers, right. A heater, a plumber, and everything, right. Doing quotes for you out of the blue. But you can just like it's like AI level.
That, man, if you could share any links to that, any like resources that where we could read, like tools that are available around that, that would be super awesome. Yeah. Like, feel free to comment on the guide. Yeah, I would love to share them on the Alchemy, like on the Tribes platform. Right, we have a group called Building. I would as soon as you share that with me, I'm gonna upload that stuff in there. Right, this is our master resource, both the Alchemy guide and then the Tribes platform.
Because you will see the blueprint then that blueprint, you will turn it into a render. So you take it 3D, and then that render becomes an Excel sheet of all the list of what you would need to actually build that.
Right.
That's the highest degree of build modeling that you will encounter today. And I'm wondering if you guys have seen any sort of like calculator or a density or parametric calculator of sorts that you can kind of input your project, and it will like scan it and tell you, well, you've got of common areas this amount and so many square meters, and you need this, and that. And on private areas, you have this many units. Each unit or type of units, depending on its class, has this type of price, and kind of give you breakdowns and very visualization, very infographic kind of approach. It would be really, really helpful when we're looking at projects. If you guys ever see something like that in the field.
Okay, sweet. Yeah, man. Any examples you have? I'd love to look into that, right? Like for like the really specifics parts of this, we definitely always refer to like architects and developers that we've like met on our journey that have done projects in the past and all have their methods. I've never seen one of these in action. I would love to. I would love to watch a few YouTube videos about it. But like, man, we're in the age of technology, and like where people are pulling real-time prices of stuff from different sources and able to give you to the T, right?
Yeah.
So that's awesome. Yeah. Anything you can find, please share it.
Right.
In our journey at the moment, we are just looking at rough estimates. So everyone can have a rough estimate of what it looks like, right? What that price is. I share with you all the intricacies that we've seen just now on the Alchemy guide. I'm going to share my screen again. Here, Alchemy guide, share. Okay, and we're back here on the Miro. So I'd love each of you to do one calculation, right? I shared with you this kind of like little cheat sheet here of like, if you want to have like a pretty finished, like nice floor, nice walls, nice fixtures price, this is your price here in dollars per square meter. If you want to have a low level finish, which kind of imagine like an outside kitchen, what that would look like, right? Where you don't have actually walls and windows, but it's like open air, you have a roof, you have a floor, you have electrical outlets, but you don't have like windows on the edges, you don't have to seal all of this. This is like what you could consider to be a low level of finish. And then we have like the simplest thing, which is covered and floor only, which is like, in Mexico, for example, this palapa is very popular, where it's just like a concrete floor and a bunch of like logs around the edge holding up a roof made out of palm tree fronds. And usually there's like mosquito net because there's a lot of mosquitoes. So that's like covered and floor area only. Places where you have like a park with just an awning on top. This is that level of finish. So I shared in here, I shared a huge one here, 100 square meter, which is pretty big, right? This is a big open air, like let's say a small one would be, I don't know, how many meters? Maybe like half that, 5x5 is like 25 square meters, right? That's like a medium one. Small, medium, yeah. Okay. And so what would be the price for that one? I'm going to do the price for that one. So I invite you guys all to consider one of your favorite things. Take the card of what you consider one of your favorite things over here that you said, okay, this is an important thing for my project, right? You all shared one important structure for your project. I invite you all to copy that card and paste it over here on the calculation side. And we're going to, here, actually, I'm going to bring this over for you guys. Okay. And that'll be our like work together exercise. I'm going to leave each of you a couple of minutes to do that. Okay, so here we're going to put like, what is the most important structure? Important important structure. Okay, next to that, we're gonna calculate the size of it. Size, you can use square meters or square feet. And then here, we're gonna estimate the cost. We can actually put in there the finish level, which would be important to have as well. Let me move this over to the side. Okay, cool. Size, finish. And then based on that, the cost. Okay, sweet. So boom. Oh. All right, there you go, guys. Michael, you're moving fast, buddy. Okay, cool. So I'm going to leave you guys to do this for the next, it's 12:17. This will be part of our bio break. Go to your bathroom, grab a drink. We're more than halfway through the call. Think about your most important structure, okay? Then think of an estimate of the size of this structure, right? If it's a house, how big do you want the house to be? Feel free to send a message or ask any questions. I'm just going to grab some water and I'll be back here to go through it with you guys. Right, the size, look over here at the cheat sheet up here. So you can see like what a small studio is 40 square meters or is the same as 400 square feet, which equals 400 square feet, right? If it's a 2-bedroom house, it's 230 square meters, which is about the equivalent of 2,300 square feet. And so forth and so on. So look at that cheat sheet, get an idea of what it would cost, of what the size of your place is, and then understand what level of finish, right? If you're living somewhere cold, you kind of always need a middle to low level finish. So it can be in between those two numbers, right? Because you need to seal the house in the winter time. Otherwise, you're going to freeze. If you're in the heat, you have a little bit more flexibility because you can survive in the heat without like air conditioning and sealing. It won't be the most comfortable. Like I have friends that won't travel somewhere unless there's air conditioning. So figure out your level of finish, where you want to be with that, what's really needed, and then the cost. We'll do a rough estimate on cost. I'm going to grab some water. You guys dig into that, and I'll be right back. Okay, guys, I am back. I am adding my calculation here for my middle space, co-work space, that I think is important. Let's see, I'm gonna do like middle finish, middle low finish, right? So one thought for me is because I'm working with projects, I'm interested in building like not in a mainstream like Miami, like United States city. Like right, working in interested in like Mexico specifically. I have a soft spot in my heart for Mexico. Currently here in Honduras and seeing a lot of potential here in Honduras. My middle level finish is somewhere in between the price here and a little bit lower because of material cost and labor cost and the lowered expectation with like permitting and how much easier that can be in certain places that have less strict regulations or just smaller processing times. I'm gonna say my middle ground is like 1500.
What up, Oscar?
What's up, you guys?
No, just me.
Okay,
Good,
so what
man.
place did you want to build? Okay, your movement studio on the mountaintop.
Yeah.
All right, so here are other variables we have to consider, right? Like when you're building, like that price there for the middle finish is like taking into consideration a normal city where there's like roads and spaces open to get to the place to do the thing. In situations where you're like in a remote place, like a mountaintop that maybe doesn't have any roads cut up to it or has minimal infrastructure like electricity and stuff like this, you can expect the price to go up, right? When
Yeah.
they have to bring, let's say, their own generators to create energy to use their power tools, or even like you have to build your own road to get to the place where you want to build the thing.
Yeah, then the road has its own cost.
Right, man.
Totally.
Like that becomes a whole journey on its own.
Or if you helicopter your materials.
Right. Right. Like, dude, again, I cannot emphasize you guys how tricky it is with making estimates for stuff. Right. And again, all of this even goes out of the window. Let's say you get 3 days of rain when you laid your concrete foundation down, right? They calculated wrong and you get 3 days of rain. The 3 days of rain is like labor and costs that you're still paying for stuff, equipment rentals, machinery, employees. And if the rain hits in a weird way, the concrete foundation's finished. You have to rip it all out, which is another set of labor that wasn't accounted for. And then you have to redo it, buy more concrete, and do all the stuff. Like, man, building is not easy. Development is not easy, right? This is one of the biggest challenges in creating these places, is calculating it right, raising enough money to do it, and then actually executing on the project right. It's critical to have a team that is really, really track record proven in like being able to build stuff, staying within budget, and the whole kind of like 9 yards of that. Again, we're just scratching the surface of this topic. So we can get an understanding and know, okay, just my co-work space at my dream place is going to cost $300,000, right? Like that's almost $500,000 for one building. I haven't even thought about a house yet. I haven't even thought about a clubhouse yet. So this is how we can start taking stuff into account, right? And this exercise primarily is to show how we can have an estimate in our mind. But once you actually start putting stuff on paper, right, you see how quickly things add up. My first estimate of a place, I'm like, oh, I want to build a modest place in a beautiful area with like modest infrastructure, was like under like 3 million, my first one. And then once I did my first estimate of like, I have to build a road, right? Let's even consider road. Like a gravel road will cost you anywhere from $2,000 to $20,000 if you want asphalt on the high end, right? Let's say we want gravel road, which if you do gravel, you're going to have to redo the gravel every couple of months or years, depending on how rainy it is and how much traction and traffic you have through the space. So it's just a series of costs that continue to add up and continue to kind of fluctuate. All right, how's everyone? Is everyone back? We're missing Jem, we're missing Kelsey. Endo's not back yet.
I'm listening, but I'm
okay,
still
Endo,
out.
you're here. Great. All right, Viv. So how did you do your calculation?
Okay, so first I was thinking about just the space, like the communal space to like host volunteers, and I was like, where have I been staying? How big was it? And then I was gonna go with like a small apartment, but then I realized that doesn't make sense because as a volunteer, like you don't need a kitchen and all, like a bathroom in that space. So I kind of went just with about like the communal house that has that ultimately is going to be like next to the greenhouse, and that has the creation kitchen and just like space to hang out, and that can also host volunteers, so it has
Cool.
a room for the volunteers. And then I just went with what was between 150 and 200 square meters, and since I don't know where I would put it, like where I would build it, still I went like from the lowest to the most expensive middle finish thing. So like US or Mexico standard. So
okay, yeah, that's really great. And I love how you like, it's really indicative of how you transition from like, okay, I'm going to build this, but I could build this. Actually, why don't we just merge the two things and make a multi-use space that works both as a clubhouse and accommodation as we need it. And this is, I think, the solution that happens a lot with vision holders is they make a decision to create a multi-use space that works both as a social area where you have a few desks on the side for people to do their work and people to, it's also the office for the community. And also the rooms upstairs are both individual rooms and maybe one or two a little bit bigger, so you can put multiple beds in there and have it as a shared like living accommodation piece as well. So it's interesting to see you go through that thought process. It's what happens a lot, right? And creating multi-use spaces tends to be the win, especially when you're balling on a budget, which we're going to go into next about marketing. So, okay, who's next? Mike, you discussed your mountain movement top, right?
Mountain movement top. I like that.
Yeah, mountain. Oh yeah, mountaintop movement studio. Yeah, dyslexic moment here. Okay, so
Yeah, it would be like a wide open space, like wooden floor, um, just basically overhead space with, but high ceilinged, probably
right.
cathedral roof,
Mhm.
screened in rather than walled in,
Okay, cool.
um, and maybe even like you'd be using probably some big timbers for the
Right.
structure itself. So I named it a middle cost.
Okay, cool.
Um, what's not included though is, the road the halfway up from the middle half to the top of the mountain peak, which is
Right, because
really just forested.
that road is not in there yet, huh?
Yeah.
Right. So
So
actually,
there's a road halfway up the mountain, but the second half, yeah, there needs to be a road built to bring materials up.
right. So this is something we can add here is like additional costs, right? Like hidden costs. You can even consider them. Moments where we're like, "Ooh, this is totally sneaking up on me."
Hmm.
Cool. So this is what the journey looks like, you guys, right? As we're doing it with each one of us, this is us peeking into our journey as a consultant with our vision holders. We're all the vision holders, and we're each playing the consultant role with each of us. And this is how it happens a lot, right? Just like with Vivi, she realized, oh, I could make this just for housing, but instead, let me make it a mixed use space for housing and co-living and communal space. Mike, on your journey, you realize, okay, I want to build this thing and this is my vision. And ooh, I also need to take into account the road, right? How many meters of road is it, or how many feet of road do you imagine that is? We can do a rough estimate there and tack that onto the price of building your mountaintop movement studio, right? And that's something that will definitely be a thing we have to do. Okay, who else is back? Endo, would you like to share?
Yeah. So I'm looking. One of the things that I've kind of learned is that usually when you start with a project, you either go to like a builder's lodge and this multi-purpose area, which I think is totally ideal. In my case, I think that the more iconic a centerpiece you can develop earlier, the easier it is to have both traffic, attention, people. Like it starts to become a place to go, not just because it can hold you maybe in the earliest stages, and as you know, maybe you can't stay, but you can have activities there. It can be like a daytime, and you can start kind of hubbing the construction of the outlying areas through it. And I calculated it on the other note, sorry, but the rough size that I would estimate is around 300 square meters. I'm taking 1,600 as a like low ball estimate.
Right.
Because of locations, I would always do like a 30% estimate. It can go more or less than that, you know,
Right,
like
variable. Yeah.
15 to 30% is usually the variable that you can expect from that last mile. And I wanted to share a project that I was in Siancan, in Tulum, which is a naturally protected area. And a lot of projects we will see that are in restrictive zonings for certain invasive construction.
Right.
So they had to bring all the construction materials through boats, through the fishermen, because they couldn't go through the roadways
Right.
and be given that access, you know. So there's a lot of that that it made me really think about. And the total of this main structure that I would think assimilates to like a menorca, like a very large prayer space, multi-purpose, that can really be iconic with the highest degree finishes for quality, because this is probably one of the longest standing buildings that will be growing upon of the whole project. at around $480,000 to $500,000.
Okay. Yeah, right. And so this is another strategy, right? Like different people follow different things. Some people follow like, okay, let's do functionality first and create early stage housing and these things first. Others say, okay, let's create something amazing that really sparks people's interest. And this will be kind of our calling card that starts the whole concept of marketing, which is what we're going to go into next, you guys. So yeah, okay, thank you for sharing that, Ando. Yeah, and so this is one where like, right, the road isn't there, so they have to ship in through boats, which adds to costs, and this is where that fluctuating like plus or minus is good to have. If you ever get into the minus where it costs less than what you estimated, man, you are a lucky human being. That means you hit like, are your timelines right and everything went smoothly. I also share in here, side note, you guys, calculations for different things like roads and also garden. I shared this estimate here for the garden cost based on a permaculturist that we've worked with in Mexico who gave an estimate for a 2-hectare project, right? Which is, if you're imagining size, that's like 2 football pitches, like 2 big, like stadium size, like football fields. That's 2 hectares, more or less. And the cost for her to set that up as a food forest. And
is it charging?
yeah, and the initial cost for her to do that was about $60,000 for those 2 hectares. So setting up a garden can range anywhere in this price, $3 to $8 per square meter. That's again very like very much an estimate. Let me add that here. Estimate. I shared it in the alchemy guide, like where we got that example and how that came from. But with this, you can understand kind of like price of structures at every level of finish, the road, which is really important stuff, and a bit of the garden. We're going to go more into garden and solar energy and water stuff in our next call where we discuss sustainable systems. But for now, this is base ideas for estimating cost for your community, right? Again, we're just scratching the surface of this. After this, when we estimate, okay, this is the cost for everything, just like Vivi did, and you start prioritizing what you want to do first, second, last. And this is where we go to this third card over here, which is our priorities, right? Always you need roads to get everything in there. Early stage housing is one that we like really see has success because once people can start living on the property, it's a community. Others that we've seen create amenities first. They create a gym or like an event space or other things. And sure, it's nice to be able to invite people to enjoy the amenities, but until people can live there, it doesn't start feeling like a community. And that to us is one of the big advantages that we, us as a team, always recommend to our like community projects that we're working with. Like early stage housing, even if it's a couple of awesome tents, like glamping setups that you can throw up overnight and have places for people to live with a dry toilet and like a water pump that comes out to a hose for showering. A little burner with a roof, and now you have a community started up. And this, a lot of the times, kickstarts projects in ways that are really, really key for the marketing effort, which is what we're going to talk about next, right? We only have about like 20 minutes. I really went over on this because it's really important for me that you guys understand this whole concept of estimating costs, right? Again, we're nowhere near the actual cost. We can always over budget, which is better, but it's a whole journey. Okay, so this brings us, now that we've gone through the main steps of understanding what we want to build, estimating what it's going to cost to build, right? And so there would be a compilation of like adding all of our costs up, right? Just between the 4 of us that shared on here and Ando, your piece, we're looking at like $500,000. What is this? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. All right. So just between the spaces that we shared here, right? The space Ando wants to build, your mountaintop studio, a clubhouse for Vivi, Jem, what did you share? Your Samhan Surfy, your space for practices, okay, like a meditation place and a co-work space. We're looking at like $1.5 million. right? Ballpark again. So let's start with that number. We have $1.5 million that we want to raise. What's our next step in this journey to build this place out? Right? All right, so we're here. We took our bio break already. We're coming over here to the funding methods. When you click funding methods, it's going to take you again to the Alchemy guide. Cannot emphasize how important it is that you guys look through this, get comfortable with the guide, right? This is like the textbook of the course. In here, you'll find references and information that will lead you into the channels so you don't start having to figure it out. We've been figuring it out for the last couple of years. We're doing our best to log this journey. This guide will continue to grow, especially with your help, you guys. So the first question is, okay, we have to raise $1.5 million. Let's just use that number. How are we going to do it? Well, what are our options is the first thing we ask ourselves. And this is where this brings us. Well, these are the options that we explored earlier of like private investors and angel investors, venture capitalists, real estate developers, community investment, government grants, nonprofits, loans from the bank, impact investment, green bonds, all of these options, right? This is just a starting list. There's much more. There are more ways that you can generate revenue. Not generate revenue, but collect that initial startup capital that you need to buy the land initially, right? And so that 1.5 million, we haven't even touched on buying land. Let's say that land costs us another, $250,000, another 250. So at this point, we're at 1.7 million, right? With a little bit of like leverage, let's say we're going to raise $2 million. That's what we need for our community project. So you look at the funding methods and you start exploring which seem like they could be an option. They all have their pros, they all have their cons, right? Like with private investors, angel investors, you are creating a deal with someone that's giving you money for something. Either you're going to give them stake in the project, like they own a piece of the project, or you're going to guarantee them some return over time. Like, oh, once the project's built, I'm going to be making this much money and I can offer you this much money in return. You can look at all that information here where we have systems in place to track your ROI, right? Return on investment. Do they receive a percentage of revenue from the project? For how long do they receive it? Do they receive it until something is paid back? Or will they forever be your partner because they gave you the money at the beginning? And these are all things that need to be explicitly stated in these contracts and in these agreements. We have a few sample ones that we've been like piecing together from different projects. Some of them are private, so we have to kind of like blank them out and scrub them so there's no private information on them, but we'll be uploading these into these areas of like how people have shared equity with others and how they create something interesting enough that someone will trust them and give them the money because they're also considering, oh, okay, I can generate some money from this in the long run. In other models, instead of just money, they maybe get land in return for their investment. Do they get land as a return for that investment? Can they later sell it for a profit? Like, are they able to take that land that they got and in 2 or 3 years say, oh, I'm selling it for double the price now? Is this limited to a percentage? Like, okay, you guarantee that whatever land you get, you won't sell for above whatever percentage of the actual rate right now or below. Because what if they dump the price? This happens with a lot of investments. So these are all things to consider when receiving money from people that you need at the beginning to get your project going. It's a super touchy topic and requires a lot of introspection and experience. Again, we are here to introduce this idea to the vision holders. And the best we can do is share with them examples of what other projects have done, which is where we're going to go now to these 2 case studies, right? One near and dear to my heart is this one, Traditional Dream Factory in Portugal. Really awesome project. They've gone a quite innovative route. They created a cryptocurrency token that one token represents one night stay at that community. So essentially, people can pay ahead of time. Let's say I wanted to live there for 6 months out of the year. I would need to buy 180 of these tokens so that for 180 days, I could show up and give 1 token for every day that I'm at that project. And for that price, that token gives me a day for perpetuity, for the rest of the life of this project. That's my investment. And I'm not actually owning the land or owning the project, but I'm owning a night stay at that place. It's a really innovative model that I found quite interesting. They're actually raising money right now to finish paying for the rest of the land that they own. It's a really interesting thing. I'd love to talk to you guys more about it. They actually need some help with funding. And one of their strategies is to incentivize others that are passionate about the project to help sell some of the tokens. And they give people a bit of a kickback, like a commission on helping them sell the tokens. Other things that they've applied to are like government loans, as it's an eco village and they're replanting trees. They obviously had the initial investment was from the founder and his father. They put the money down for the land at the beginning and for the initial infrastructure that was built to retrofit some stuff. So it's a really interesting project. On the other side, this is one called Alma de Sol. It's in the Azores. It's an island off the coast of Portugal. So they have done the more traditional route where they took $100,000 in gifts and small personal loans. So first is your friends and family, right? Like people in your circle that know you and believe in you and trust you and are willing to give you money for some exchange. Some of these exchanges were, okay, once you build the place, I would love to come and stay there for X amount of nights. The rest of it, you can pay me back the money that I lent you or with some interest. The other piece, of course, like it usually happens, is the founders come in with the initial money to get the thing going, to pay for the lawyers, to buy the land, or to put the down payment down on the land. And this gives people a bit more trust, right? I spoke to someone here recently that shared with me what it takes for them to trust someone. I would love to hear that from you guys. Like in a situation like this where you are going to give someone money, hard-earned money that you've worked for, or you're going to come dedicate time to a project. What is one thing that you feel is important for you to see in this person that would make you trust them? Who has one? I would love to hear one or two. I'll give the example that this person told me that really like left an impression on me was he said that people have skin in the game. That the person that they're talking to, that they are going to invest money into or invest their time and resources into, has skin in the game, as in also has money invested in the project or is also working on this project full time. Situation like this was that example. What's up, Ando? I see you and your cute baby. Let me see that little boy.
Yeah.
What's up, cute baby?
You know, one of the things as a lawyer, we're kind of put to assess the profile of the person, and there's this obviously due diligence and KYC is to just looking for someone's record online is fundamental. Right. It's as stupid as that, but just look the name up before you take the money or before you offer any money. And the other one would be really a judgment of character by passion. I think that people that are passionate is because they have skin in the game, they have a clear understanding of it, they're clearly invested in it beyond or not just financially sometimes or like commercially, but actually embody and you see yourself like resonated with that,
Right. Okay, that's a good one. Yeah, important one, right? Online search. Like look for this person online, see what you can find, right? The internet has a ton of stuff about a ton of people in there. Okay, cool.
Yeah, like do your own research.
Right, do your own research for sure. Even ask for references. Like ask this person, hey, who are other people you've done business with? What are some other projects you've worked on or people you've worked with? I would love to talk to them to see how it went. A little bit subjective, of course, they're probably not going to give you like not the best people or tough situations, but it's a good start and lets them know that you're serious about finding out about what their history is about. Yeah. Anyone else? Anything that would make you feel? Yeah, Vivi, go ahead.
Yeah. So based on what you guys said, I agree, but at the same time, I had one experience where all of these things were a given. So the guy had invested had invested his own money. He had a bunch of investors that came in with money. He was doing this full time, and he got a bunch of people involved, really good friends involved. So everything seemed like this is gonna happen. Like I even thought about moving there, and
Right.
then some other things happened, blah 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 blah, and yeah, a couple months later, I was surprised to hear the whole thing had failed, and
Yeah, right.
a lot of people disappointed because they were like they put trust in the person, and I perceived him also as like a super trustworthy, super passionate, really, and I do think that he wants to do it. I just but he then didn't. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so this is why this story, Viv, is why it's not easy to get funding, right?
100%.
Like either you have enough trust that people give you money and you get a good deal, or if you don't have to build trust with people, you end up borrowing money for a super high interest rate, right? It's kind of like the back and forth there. Okay, cool. Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Vivi. Yeah, it's a big challenge in this journey, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes everything adds up, but it just falls through for whatever reason, right? A storm hits, they made one bad calculation, one guy runs off with a little bit of money, and it just creates a like cataclysmic event. Yeah, go ahead, Kelsey.
Yeah.
Building up a track record of like looking in to see what small projects have they executed, what's the timeline of the projects, like of how they've gotten to where they're at, and like seeing if they've been able to execute on the small things, and yeah.
Okay, nice. Yeah, that's a good
Like
one.
what's the next step? Like, have you been able to get this far?
Right, right. Yeah. Cool. I'm adding all these also you guys to how we can build trust, right? Receiving money is about building trust at the end of the day. Okay, Michael, do you have something to say?
Yeah, I think we talked a little bit about judging someone's character, but we also just talked about judging someone's capability of pulling this project forward. And so, maybe one of those things is this checking out their plan, the details of their plan, but also maybe the details of their team.
Right.
So that's just additional to what everyone else said.
Yeah, definitely. So here we go. Details of plan. Right, and then details of the team, right? It's like this is that like creating a community is not a one-man show. So a really good gauge is to see who are the people around this project that will lead to more of this success in this process. So yeah, checking out the team is a good one. Okay, sweet.
Yeah, and I wanted to share on that in the Regenesis kind of line. They believe that for a project to truly be regenerative, it needs to have that design for evolution. You got to leave a lot of space for things to happen and exceed your own expectations, because when things are done well and it's the right people and it's the right place, wow, everything just flows, no?
Right. Okay, and so these 2 points that you guys just brought up, right? Both details of the plan, details of the team, what is the evolution design of the place, hearing the track record and references, all of this stuff is key stuff that needs to go into documentation of your project, right? We have like 1 minute left. I'm going to go over like a couple minutes if you guys are okay with that. I don't want, if you have to go, I understand. We're just going to go into the importance of documentation, right? Once your project exists, it's not enough that you have it in your head or that you have it in your cell phone in a few text messages. To build the trust that people need, remember, they need to not feel like they're going into the unknown. I'm going to share my screen again. Let me share this. Okay. Here we go. Okay, so super important that Your ideas that are in here as an entrepreneur, as a founder, as a co-founder, as the consultant, helping these people go through their process, the key moment is to explain what we are doing clearly in a way that builds trust. It's taking the stuff that's in here, the vision, the mission, the timeline, the milestones, the goals, the phases, the prices, taking it out of up here where most people live in their head in a few scattered notebooks or Google documents, and putting it into a beautifully organized, and the more beautifully designed it is, the better it feels for people. Because they assume, okay, if this person has the time to make a beautiful presentation about their beautiful idea, they're more organized and more structured, right? It's the reason people wear business suits. I would believe that someone wearing shorts and a tank top is just as capable of leading the country. Yet the president wears a business suit every single day. You never see him outside of one. Why is that? Because the packaging speaks volumes, right? And there's a pro and a con with that, right? People know how to wrap shit in gift paper, you can say. I don't know if that's how you actually say the saying, but like people know how to make something look really beautiful when inside it's rotten. And that's a super risk. We have to kind of ride this wave of understanding that we need to make a good plan, which is why we're learning all of these steps leading up to what we're talking about. And not only do we need a good plan, which is a strong core, we also need to wrap this around in a beautiful way so people understand what it is and are attracted to it. And this is marketing. Marketing is literally, to me, the difference between a business surviving and a business failing. Like you can have, I've seen people with the best product that would revolutionize things in whatever industry they were in, but they couldn't create a reasonable or decent explainer video about their project. So no one ever knew, and they ran out of money and they went back to work in a 9 to 5. And on the other side of this, I've seen people with almost no idea, just a nebulous of something they wanted to do. But they created an interesting video and they made social media talking about the thing, and they wrote blogs about this nebulous idea that wasn't anything yet. But because they were able to attract people's attention and be charismatic in the process, they were able to gather enough money and support to actually develop something that turned into a successful business. So marketing is, to me, everything in this journey, right? Making a good plan and then marketing it well. On this document I share, or here in the Miro, Sonia put all these pieces together, which is what our journey has been through as entrepreneurs, both for Regen Tribe as a project, and also our experience in consulting startups and other businesses in the past. Again, a part of our magic is that we are taking this traditional kind of like, I'm leaving the matrix, I'm a hippie, and I just want to build my little commune model. And we're now infusing it with like business practices, entrepreneurial best habits, and the thing that businesses do to have taken over the world at this point, right? They explain what they do clearly, they ask for clear ways of people getting involved, and they share really good content about this to tell their story. So if you look here, this is kind of the simplified journey of how you can do this process. I always like, when I don't know where to start, I always like to start with the why, how, what document, right? Why are we doing what we're doing? How are we doing this? And what will we be actually bringing to the world? We've shared in here some links to a few of our documents so you can see them. Like this is our personal Regen Tribe, why, how, what, right? Why are we doing it? To regenerate society and our planet. How are we doing it? By helping regenerative neighborhoods connect and grow. What are we bringing to the world? The Regen Tribe ecosystem, which is the global network, the education, right? This is the Tribes platform. This is the education piece, our alchemy guide specifically, and support as an agency. This is us, you guys. So these are the three components of what Regen Tribe does in a very simple why, how, what. This started as a Google document where I went through infinite numbers of like versions to each one of these things. And it takes practice to write this up and get it out and like pitching it to different people. Communities have to do the same thing. Why are they building their community? To help people heal from emotional trauma or to become food sovereign, whatever their big why is. How are they doing that? Right? By creating gardens and sustainable food forests. Or for the other person, how are we doing this? By holding spaces and activities where people can come and be introduced to tools to help them evolve emotionally. And then what? What is the XYZ community that has this, this, and this? I will share more links to these documents with you guys. I want to see where this links to. The why, how, what document is the first one, right? I very much follow this guy. What was his name? The Start With Why, a video that we saw on one of the calls. I love that.
Simon Sinek.
Yeah, right. Simon Sinek. I love that model. It at least gives me the starting point to ask myself why, how, and what. From there, right, a Google Doc is that nugget of gold, the big questions. The topic is, if you just give someone a Google document, they're not going to look at it with a lot of like, it's the president missing his business suit if you just give him a Google document. So you turn that Google document into something like this. We will be sharing a bunch of templates with you guys. Like this template, you guys could take it and gut it and give it to one of your vision holders and put their information in here. And that's a big part of what Regen Tribe is about, to give people templatized resources that they can use to make their project succeed. We'll be sharing a lot more of that with you guys throughout the course. Turning that why, how, what document into a one-pager and into a deck, right? Some people don't like to look at, like, I like to look at everything in one page. Some people like to look at it piece by piece. So having both a deck and a one-pager is really important for this journey.
Especially if you're thinking about investment, a deck is the way to go because you cannot really involve a lot of technical information about your project without a deck. Hi, you guys, nice to see you. Right, so a deck, there's a good example here. I'm kind of lost in the tabs. Ubuntu has a really good deck, and so it conveys the vision of the project as well as technical information about the investment and return on investment. So you can go through it a little bit later. I know you guys are running out of time, but this is a really, really cool example. Also, if you go to the Alchemy guide, we linked our folder in the drive with all of the community decks that we've collected in the last 3 years. So we can go through them, and this is something that you can show the vision holder in order to get some inspiration about what they wanna in the Community Alchemy guide.
Okay.
There's a link here. Yeah.
Or it's on the mural.
You can, I think I put, okay, yeah, just go to the Alchemy guide. It's, yeah, just go to the Alchemy guide.
Okay.
Okay. And here in the beginning of marketing strategy, here you have community decks. And so if you go to that folder, you have all of the decks that we've collected in the last 3 years. They are somewhat categorized. You can go through different examples with the vision holder. Like the Ubuntu one is a really good one. I would take that as a template. We also have our own template for community projects as a deck. Nicole put together a great Kuyabe deck, and so we're going to be using that as a template. So yeah, again, a lot of cool resources in the Alchemy guide.
Right. Yeah. So the journey is to explain in a nutshell, right? We need to explain what we're doing clearly. Explaining what we're doing clearly in a document that starts with a why, how, what document. This evolves into a one-pager and a deck. This then makes it easy once you've established what are the important things you need to share to put your information on a website. And then the unique space we're in now with social media is that there are community platforms where you can share specific information to specific niches. And that's kind of what we share here in, like, now that you have this information organized, written out, and even graphics of it, so it looks beautiful, right? You put the suit on the information. Where are we going to share this information? This is now the PR part, right? The broadcasting of this information that we've prepared, because this is marketing, creating the content and then pushing it out to people's eyeballs. So here we share on the right, Sonia prepared this great layout of what are some of the channels that we like. Digital marketing channels in the Community Alchemy Guide.
Right, this is just a list of that. This is a visual version of that expands a little bit more about the demographic of different channels, right?
Oh, okay.
Like on Facebook, we experience there's a little bit of an older demographic, and Instagram has different content. It's more visual, less informational, therefore it will have a little bit more young users. X is a place where a lot of tech startups grow and share their information. So if this is one of the pillars of your project, probably Twitter will be a right place to share that.
Yeah, right. Each platform has its like demographic that you can follow. You can kind of see it, right? Facebook is definitely like older, like more like our parents. They were using Facebook a lot.
No shame on Facebook.
Or it's great because this is honestly the retiree crowd is a piece of the age demographic that is key to integrate into a community that is actually looking for society and social life again and really fitting. Instagram is more of a young crowd, a little bit less engaged. You can get followers and you can get people there, but it's more people scrolling through pictures. But it is good for broadcasting a message, and eyeballs are eyeballs at the end of the day. And then Twitter, or X now, is a bit more of like a, again, like Sonia said, techie crowd. It's like short form blogs, right? People mostly write. So I would consider it to be a little bit more of like an engaged demographic, not as easy to get followers. Requires more like written content to engage. The evolution of this, right? These are like big general platforms that share everything. The next one is more niche platforms, right? Like Tribes. Tribes is a platform about communities for people looking for communities. Other ones like the Intentional Community Foundation, right? On there is a place where projects should share their projects. Just like they put them on Tribes, they should also put them on there, on the Intentional Community website. Numundo actually has been like taking a break. They ran out of funding and they're figuring out their next moves. So that's like a listing of land projects, and Jen is based in Europe. So same listing of land projects. Other really powerful formats are blogs. Writing down your idea, telling the story, your monthly newsletter, your quarterly update, your yearly update, your weekly newsletter. Every post that you put out there is a seed that you're planting that can potentially lead to fruit. And that fruit is the money you need to build your community. So marketing is super key, you guys. We're like 13 minutes over. I don't want to hold you too long. The next is insights. Does anyone have any questions? I'd love to leave the floor for you guys for a few minutes. Any questions? I hate to rush through that. We will always be talking about marketing. Like you guys even see the level of marketing we did to promote this course. If we didn't do that, none of you maybe would have even showed up. We wouldn't have had anyone on this course. So this is the beauty of marketing. It works for everything, specifically communities, specifically when you need to receive money for something. Do you guys have any questions, any feedback? Would love to hear from you guys. That's pretty much the end of this course, this call. Again, remember, this is our first course, you guys. Like, we're just scratching the surface of the stuff. We're going over it and exploring it, and we will go much deeper, especially when we do the next course, or we do focus courses on specific topics, or we have one-on-ones where you're meeting with a client and needing help. We'll be there for that.
And something to note is that most of the successful projects actually have a person that is a dedicated marketing person, and there's another person that's a dedicated person that is focused on getting funds, right? So you're only sharing the holistic view of the process with the vision holder, still advising them to get a person that can do that full time. Like marketing is such a game changer that there should be definitely at least one person that is committed to making that happen through all the channels.
Marketing is such a big deal.
Yeah, it's everything.
So important. And there's so many ways you can do it, right?
Mm-hmm,
Graphics, words, short form, long form, video,
dude,
audio.
YouTube, we didn't even put YouTube on there, but YouTube is a huge one. Right. And every person digests content in the way they like to digest content. Some people like to read. Some people like to look at 1 second or 5 second videos. Some people like to look at 30-minute videos. If they're not at least 10 minutes, they're not even going to watch them because they're like, oh, there's not enough thought put into this.
Right. Some people like reading books, and maybe it makes sense to write a book about a topic that is connected to your community, right? Like it's good to identify these demographics. It's good to generalize in that sense, still using most of the channels that you align with.
Yeah, you guys, if anyone has any questions, would love to hear from you guys. If not, this was the class. I do leave homework for you guys. One, look for properties that are for sale, somewhere that interests you. Keep going with this visual exercise of your community, because as you go through this journey, you kind of put yourself in the shoes of a potential client of yours, what they're going through. What is the exercise for them of finding the land, estimating the price, preparing their story and their journey.
My question is, how is the relationship of Regen Tribe and their marketing right now? Where are things going really well, and where do you guys want to expand?
Okay, so it's interesting you asked this question. From our journey here at this project, we are in an interesting point where we're actually pivoting a bit of our marketing strategy, right? For this whole time that we've been creating and branding what we are and who we are, we started in the very grass movement side, right? The grassroots side of this movement, which was like very much eco villages, intentional communities that were starting very modestly and building slowly, very lifestyle based and very human centric based. Essentially, okay, let's find some land and the 6 of us together will start building something and we'll see what this becomes, right? Very grassroots, bottom up design. In the last 6 months to 1 year, we've really started getting involved with what I consider to be the other side of the spectrum of this journey, which is people that come into this with a mission, a clearly defined goal. Like, okay, I need food and water sovereignty, and this is why I'm building this place. And with that mission in mind, I'm going to gather the people needed to start designing our place and building our place out. Right.
And I think it's not that the projects that we were focusing on before didn't have a mission. Most of them had a pretty strong mission statement. The difference that I see is more so that the vision holder was one person, 2 people, 3 people, and it was starting from that type of bubble. Here we're growing the digital community first and then going to land, which is a little bit more of a successful arrangement, since most of the projects really struggle with bringing people on board, and therefore they cannot really generate revenue because there's like 5-10 people on site. And so doing that switch and transitioning more into the startup society demographic, where people already have a bubble of 100, 200 to 1,000 in the cloud digital community, focus on the similar mission, seems to be a way to go. So kind of to reflect that on marketing, I would say focusing more on Twitter rather than like Instagram, still definitely a big channel, YouTube a big channel, Facebook yes as well, with cross posting, which is an easy solution if you don't want to commit so much energy into creating custom posts for Facebook, but focusing more on the tech crowd and the startup society crowd, which lives more on Twitter. And long form posts, Nicole is really passionate about that. I think this is also a way to go.
Yeah. Yeah, so just little things, right? Like even like Regen Tribe, like we're even going to be changing the branding a bit, right? Like the colors, the font, right? There's certain fonts that speak to a certain demographic. A more bubbly font, a more colorful font sometimes speaks to, let's say, a less business-minded, whereas like a more simple font, thinner, like sans serif without the little tails on the end and stuff like this speaks to a different demographic. Like you can look at the clear difference between like Microsoft and an art let's say, product or things like this. And so this is all like the marketing structure that we are redesigning, reinventing. It even looks like a change in an organization, right? Where we create now a sister company to Regen Tribe, investigating the journey of startup societies and eco villages and intentional communities to a more directed organization to help people build startup cities, which is the word that we're finding in this demographic that is, right, not the environmentalist that we're selling sustainability to. Our strategy is now pivoted into, okay, these are the business and entrepreneur and let's say demographic that is interested in doing this and now needs to be introduced to the concept of sustainability and regeneration. And this is now where like we're kind of pointing our efforts. And that's
very
all
cool.
message.
So you're kind of changing the target audience, and
Right.
you're going to go more into writing short form on Twitter and long form as
Right.
well.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
It's a cool audience you guys have found. That's yeah, that's very intriguing.
It's interesting, man. Yeah. It's like we're surrounded by them right now on this island, right? People here, entrepreneurs, biotech scientists, people starting like gene therapy. One guy has a startup that is like head replacement. Like they can take someone's head and put it on another body and connect it, and it like gives it and it works. Like this is the startup this guy started in that space. Like sci-fi stuff, kind of. The
That's
future
wild.
of like
That's
living.
really
Yeah.
wild. So I can get the body I want without working that much.
I guess that's what his mission is. Yeah, he's building off that someone set a prize that people are now working on creating bodies without like a mind, right? It's just bodies that are like I don't know, like vehicles for a potential head transplant later on. Like that, I was having a conversation with him the other day, and like it sounds crazy, but like this is what the dude works on every day, 15-hour days. He's always on his computer, just smashing it, doing it. Yeah.
Now
Yeah,
you're
that's crazy.
15-hour work days at the same time, but if you're passionate about something and it feels good for you, then by all means go for it.
Right.
I wanted to share something on the marketing side. For like one of the things I've seen is that for there to be marketing, there needs to be like a clear product design, and that's a big part of, I think, that the biggest act of belief, of self-belief you can have on yourself as a like leader of a project and on the project itself, is to offer it in sales, to make the minimal viable product as it's called, like as a very lean startup kind of mentality to it. But when you talk about funding, it can fund itself if you do things properly. Like I wanted to like have everybody know that you don't need to have a final, definitive, super structured product of a unit for fractional sales or something that you need a massive campaign. You can start raising between friends and family, selling either plots of land or like lower interest loans or stuff like that. That really helps you kick things off immediately and start sharing it with amazing people that you encounter in the journey all through it, and not wait until the end that you have a perfect product to kind of like market it and go about it.
Yeah.
Like marketing is selling it, and if you are pushing it to sell, you're marketing. The rest is just an extension of it.
Right. Yeah, definitely agree. There's a saying that I really love, that if you're not embarrassed by your first version, then you waited too long to take it to the and so right, there's obviously a fine line in that of like sharing and not waiting too long while also creating something of quality. for your audience. Your biggest fans will accept anything that you bring to them because they know that you are really working on it. It's the others that don't really know you so well that need the whole cosmetic thing and like the whole business suit behind it. So this is how you can start gauging your like early supporters and like later on people that you need to get more quality content, more like detailed documentation to. But yeah, it's important to get your idea out as soon as you can. You guys, Reddit is there's an intentional communities Reddit that is great, where people are just talking about their journey into intentional communities. If you've, how many of you have used Reddit before? It's like a forum style blog, short blog style website. It's super powerful. It's literally little community. It's like, I explained it to my mom. It's like the biggest building that you can imagine in the whole world. And there's a room for every topic that you can imagine. And if that room doesn't exist, you can write your topic on the wall and stick it on a door. And now you've created that room. There's an intentional community one. I have one called Regenerative Neighborhoods that I started a few years ago. I was working on a project about plastic, and I started a group called Recycling Plastic. That's a group now with like hundreds of people talking about solutions they're building for recycling plastic waste. It's a digital community that in the last 2 years came up and is now doing stuff with people talking about topics. It's a really cool place to meet people about indigenous topics or about anything else, right? That could interest anyone, like food production. All of that stuff is in there. It's really cool. One of the really great tools that, if you look again in the Alchemy Guide, I want to end you guys with that real quick. The Alchemy Guide is where we put all of the thoughts in the Miro. You get like a more graphic journey into the main points. But on the Alchemy Guide, you get more specific examples of like, for example, how do you tell the story of your project, right? I'm sharing my screen right now, like the who of your story, right? We went through the why, how, what, and now you explore the who. Who are we talking to? Who are our heroes of our journey? Also, we put here the links to all of the decks and all that stuff that you should be looking at. And then just some discussion on strategies, right? Like digital strategies, physical strategies, the marketing channels that we explored, and more importantly, how to boost your marketing. A big one I'm a fan of is community hacking, right? It's tough to start a community from scratch. It's tough to find hundreds of people about a topic. It takes time. There are already communities are out there, digital communities out there. And this is a thought I want to leave you guys with. Anything that this is the other homework assignment for you guys. Something that you find yourself being passionate about. I invite you guys to go to Reddit, start there. Also look on Facebook and look through Facebook groups, right? There are hundreds of eco-village Facebook groups, sustainable community Facebook groups, Reddits, where lots of people are sharing about their projects, talking about things that interest them, offering stuff, requesting stuff. Look in those groups and find a group that interests you. I'd love to see what that group is on our next call. In there, you'll probably be able to find opportunities to buy land. That's where I want you guys to look for your land buys. Go into these groups and see if anyone in there is selling land. And that's where I'd like to see you guys find a piece of land for sale for a potential project for you guys. And understand the power of finding communities that already exist, entering those communities. I have a little walkthrough in the Alchemy Guide on how you do that. Go in, share some content, ask some questions. And over time, when you build trust and you have your project, your baby that you want to share, you can put little leads in those groups and people will start coming to your community from those other communities. And this is what I consider to be one of the most powerful tools in marketing, which is community-based marketing. So I leave you guys with that homework assignment. Thank you guys for a beautiful call. I know this was a dense one, right? Funding is a huge thing and marketing is a huge thing. And we packed them together because we want to show how important it is to consider one with the other in mind and vice versa. I'm happy we'll go deeper on this topic. We're probably going to have a whole like in-person thing at some point and another whole workshop on just the strategy for this. For now, you guys are scratching the surface and understanding the basis of it and have resources on how to get started. So thank you guys. If there's any questions, feel free to ask, write us. Let me check the chat. I see there's some stuff in here. Regen baby. Okay, good night, baby. Thank you for showing us your beautiful creation, Ando. Thank you guys for joining the call. Kelsey, I'm just now catching up on texts. I saw you sent me a message a few days ago. I'm going to get back to everything now. We're working on the whole thing for Mexico in end of March, April, May, figuring all that out, getting the details. So I'll have more concrete details on that this week for sure. I'm writing an agreement. Yeah, I'll be writing an agreement using ChatGPT. Ando, maybe you can give me a check on this of like us using that space for those months and having it in writing, even though in verbal it's agreed upon, it needs to be in writing. That from this date to this date, we will be offering this and we will be getting this in return for these things. And that's how we'll secure our housing in Tulum between end of March and end of May.
Yeah, and on that topic, on commercial law, maybe not on everything, but at least whenever we're trading, selling, offering, whatever, the digital mediums of communication like email and WhatsApp are admissible in court to demonstrate purpose in verbal, either formally written or casually agreed objectives and commitments. So like it depends on how everybody's tolerance is to formality, but you can take someone on their word, and that is enough. You know, you should document it as much as you can, but even the context and the verbal parts of it can be used. You know, so always document everything for your lawyer's sake.
Yeah, for sure. Being better about this. Okay, you guys, happy Tuesday. Thank you for this beautiful call. Thank you for your time and your energy and for learning this journey. Everyone needs help, and we're here learning about it and sharing together how we can do that best. Yeah, Viv,
Awesome.
You just raised your hand.
Yeah, I just have a question that's unrelated to the course. Anyone who needs to go, it's about Regen Week, so yeah, it's totally unrelated. But since you're here, I thought I'd ask real quick. Of course, if you guys want to stay for the question, it's totally fine. So the owner of the project that I was in last is super interested in joining for Regen Week, and he also mentioned that like in general, but I don't know if there's an option to do a talk there for him, sharing about the projects and especially about like early stages.
Right.
So yeah, just putting that out there. So when you have an answer, I can report back to him.
Okay, yeah.
On the website, it says that the date is closed for submitting your event, but it's still open, so you can.
It's still open, yeah, right. We're going to be taking events up until the last day. Like again, it's a crowdsourced event, right? The Regen Week organization just put a name out there and said, "Hey guys, we're gathering here to do this." Everyone is open to host events and host talks. We'll be hosting a talk at the place where we're going to be living, which is like a small little eco village, the one we invested into, and now we're going to be kind of like activating. And we're going to be taking part in other places and events around the city, at 2 other eco communities and at an eco campus that we're like friends with. So we'll be traveling around. We'll be like, if we're staying there, we'll all be going together to these places and like making these experiences together. So you guys get to meet other land projects and get to help with all the event preparation and all this stuff.
Great. Cool. So I can tell him that there's a possibility for him to come and even like do a talk and just
definitely.
Submit the form on the website. There's a place that takes you to a Google.
And you can still do that even though it
says it's passed. You can still submit that.
Okay, cool. I'll send that to him. Great. Awesome.
See you guys. All right, so we will talk soon. Kelsey, I'll write you back on the topic. I saw it's like 6 to 10 people. We have like a good amount of spaces at this place. Like it's like 10 different cabanas that can hold 2 beds each. So maybe like if they'd be comfortable sharing rooms, it'd be like 2 people.
Yeah, we can share rooms for sure.
Okay. All right. Sweet. Yeah, I think we can figure something out around that. I'll get you more or less the budget, like what our cost is and whatever that is. If you guys can cover that, that'd be great.
Okay, yeah, awesome.
Mhm.
Perfect.
Okay.
Super
All right, sweet, guys.
excited.
Yeah, same. All right, we'll talk soon. Yeah, and Jem, you'll be coming to Tulum, I imagine. We'll be there like middle of March.
Yeah. And now I'm in Puerto, and I will move to Mazunte for 1 month. And actually, I just want to talk with you the rest of the March and April, May.
Okay,
So
yeah.
I'm planning to
End
come
of
to
March,
Tulum.
April, May, we'll be in Tulum. So we'll have a
Okay,
space
perfect.
there. And
We
we'll
will be
figure this
together.
out. Yeah. Okay, sweet.
Okay.
Okay, you
Nice.
guys. Endo, love you, buddy.
Love you, man.
Talk soon, you
Love
guys.
you, everybody.
Thank you, Oscar. You're amazing.
Bye. We'll see you
Thank
Thursday.
you.